VI Solutions, Bangalore. So Rajkumar graduated as electrical and electronics engineer from Anna University, Chennai. Currently, he is designated as senior application engineer in VI Solutions, Bangalore, and handling the major responsibility of supporting various industries in implementing several turnkey systems and system integration projects using NI products. He is also handling the major responsibility of improving the quality of engineering and science education and eradicating the improvisation methods of education and inculcating the interest of LabVIEW. Rajkumar, as a CLD certifier, has traveled far and wide throughout India and has delivered thought-provoking lectures which inspire the students and kindle their interest towards LabVIEW, and also visited 35 engineering institutions all around the world. He had conducted more number of hands-on trainings to engineering students of various branches on LabVIEW basics and data acquisition. He also had conducted many faculty development workshops on various trending technologies, including embedded and control design, image processing, etc. He has delivered 50 plus lectures on experiential engineering education on varied topological topics. His key interests are measurement and automation, sensors, data acquisition and signal conditioning, FPGA-based embedded system design, and power electronics. So with this small introduction, I request our today's resource person, Rajkumar sir, to take over the session. Welcome you all once again. Thank you.
So thank you very much for the introduction, ma'am. Also, I am very honored to be a part of this FTB program. Okay, to have me invited here and present the my insights and my experience as the in the industry of developing scalable applications using one of the key tools, okay, which are used, which are one of the tools which is used in several parts of the development industry, right? So it's a pleasure for me to present my insight, right? So with that being said, I don't want to take a lot of time in introduction, but I'll just have a small gist on what exactly who am I and what exactly we do as a company, and we'll just continue with how we do it, right? So yes, my name is Rajkumar. I work as a senior applications at VI Solutions, Bangalore. We are a test and automation company working with tools of NI, a company called NI, National Instruments. And of course, I hope everyone knows what National Instruments is. Nowadays, now it's rebranded as NI. Okay, it's also a test and automation provider, OEM provider company, which provides with several testing soft hardware of testing hardwares, as well as to program the testing hardwares, automating the testing stuff. Okay, we have another software, graphical programming software called LabVIEW. Okay, so we are a alliance partner of National Instruments, that is VA Solutions. Okay, we provide for their clients turnkey applications for developing the their products, okay, or testing their products. So we work in several domains, okay, out of which we also focus on automotive, embedded design, vision inspection, so on and so forth. Okay, here we are going to look on, today we are going to look upon how the NI's ecosystem is going to help anyone, as a matter of fact, to design and validate power converters or powertrain based power converters, okay, and validate its controller using the software tools that we have. So this is the agenda of the day. First, we'll see the introduction of the software, how it's going to help us, then how the software is going to be used for defining the schematic, how to design best practices, etc., etc. Then controller designer for this power converter, which softwares are helpful, and open loop, closed loop, and so on and so forth. And other examples, we'll just see it as demo, okay, so that it will act as a framework for you to develop your own circuit and our own controller in the future. How it's not going to stop with one application, how you can if you have ideas, scale to the next level of an application. Okay, as I've understood, our FDP is focused mainly on energy storage for e-mobility, which is electrical vehicle, right? So in electrical vehicle, there are few major many components are available. Okay, out of which 3 components are very essential. One is this traction battery. Okay, the battery essential for propelling the vehicle forward. It acts as a fuel. Then we have the power inverter or converter. Okay, which is going to act as a ECU to control the electrical motor, as well as to power different parts of.
Excuse me, sir. Rajkumar, sir. Can you share your slides, sir?
Oh my God! Sorry. I must have first done that. Okay, I haven't gone much far. I was just showing the first slide, and this is the second slide, the agenda, and third slide I'm just showing this. Okay, I haven't gone very far, so I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, ma'am. So the traction battery, okay, it is used to power the aspects of electrical vehicle. And next is power converter inverter, because we have electrical motor which works in a different voltage level and different nature of the power. Okay, that is AC power. And we have other aspects. Okay, maybe air conditioner or different other types of systems which is powering inside. Okay, so that needs DC power. So we need to have a converter, buck converter or boost converter, whatever power is regulator basically. So these things need to be designed and properly channeled. Okay, then at the last we have electrical traction motor, okay, which is used to convert the electrical energy which is available to the mechanical energy which moves the motor forward. Okay, so these are the 3 key components, and I'm confident, I'm sure that all three of these, because I have been working in this. Okay, all 3, both design, development, validation, testing. Okay, all 3 components for these can be done. Okay, using the NI hardware and NI in a software portfolio. All have been done, and they are doing. Okay, so we have case studies also at the end. Out of which we are going to focus on power inverter and controller. Okay, because I mean, as a part of this FDP, other people are going to focus on other, but I'll just show the insights as well, surely. Okay, but how does NI, tools provide us with the solution? Okay, so NI's role in power electronics. Okay, basically this inverter is going to have a lot of power electronic components. Okay, how does it help? Okay, the power converter prototyping. How does it help in power converter prototyping, power converter monitoring and control, and electrical drive, design and control. Okay, so these are the three key components. Okay, NI's tools. Okay, like it could be LabVIEW, it could be other tools which you're going to see. So basically, this is our power converter prototyping. Okay, we have a power supply. Let's say it could be an SMPS, or mostly if in terms of electrical vehicle, it's going to be a battery. Okay, traction battery pack. Okay, then we might have a load at the end, and this load could be a AC motor, or it could be a DC motor, or it could be anything. Okay, we cannot directly connect this battery to the load, so probably we'll be having power electronic switches. Okay, which does probably it could be used to convert the power from battery to something which a motor can withstand. Okay, it could be a DC motor, it could be AC motor. Depending on that, we'll have a different type of power converter with us, right? So if it is a DC load, okay, probably we'll be using a buck converter, or if it's a AC load, it's going to use a inverter, okay, which converts DC to AC. So how does LabVIEW help? I mean, how does NI's tool help? I mean, let's say if before designing anything, okay, previously people used to do a lot of calculations, okay, in order to check whether whatever they're going to design later, okay, they need to check whether the voltage current levels are significantly, withstandable. Okay, but nowadays technology has advanced, like for last 20 years, technology has advanced so smoothly. Okay, we have a computer simulation which is possible to do all these things. Okay, there are several tools in the market which helps us, achieve these things. One of the tools, okay, which we have in the market for this is NICE tools. Okay, one of the tool, let's say you want to create the powertrain circuits. Okay, because we cannot do for large circuits, we cannot do mathematical analysis for advanced circuits. Okay, it will take a lot of time and it will consume a lot of energy. Okay, instead you can use something called multisim. Okay, I hope multisim everyone has heard of. Okay, multisim is basically a circuit design platform, okay, which is used to design circuit schematics, simulatable circuit schematics. Okay, so in that software you can create your circuit. Okay, powertrain circuit. Okay, but let's say the power train circuit needs to be supplied with set points. Okay, it needs to be given the sequence at which the inverter switch on, switch off to create the AC sine wave or square wave, or it is. Okay, it needs to be automated, right? So that cannot be done in the multisim itself, because multisim is just a circuit design platform. It's not a programming unit. So that in that case, okay, not to program, and also in order to look at the future scalability. That is, today you are trying to simulate the model, tomorrow you have to control the real model. So in that case, you cannot do everything in multisim itself. Rather, in order to control this circuit, right now in simulation and tomorrow in hardware, people will go for LabVIEW. The advantage of moving to LabVIEW is you might have a logic to control the circuit, both in simulation and in real world. Okay, first you'll create the controller algorithm in LabVIEW, send those control algorithm data to the multisim. It will respond, based on whatever control signals you give, the switch control signals you give. Okay, and it will respond to it, and that response will send back to my LabVIEW again and check whether it is working as intended. And let's say if it is working as intended, yes, sure, okay, you will proceed to the next level. But let's say you find some faults during the design phase, you will try to fix those problems. Okay, iteratively you will try to make your circuit model perfect. Let's say it has been fine-tuned fully. People, what they will do is, you will remove this multisim model, they will fabricate the real circuit, and instead of redeveloping the controller's design in other software, let's say you are trying to use a separate ARM processor which has which is programmable by using embedded C. So people again has to rewrite the logic again in embedded C. Okay, simulation you have done in LabVIEW and trying to develop the code in embedded C is going to take again few amount of time. Instead, people will reuse the code they developed during simulation in the real world as well when they use LabVIEW hardware, because hardwares of NI are programmable using LabVIEW, all of them. So whatever they use during simulation, they will remove the simulation components and they will replace it with hardware. So same single signal, whatever was sent to software will be sent to hardware. And as per my experience, not a lot of difference, okay, appeared between the simulation and the real world observation. Okay, when we used lab, okay, we were able to compare the experimental data with the real data, and so far, okay, 99%, okay, it was same. So this power controller prototyping, okay, will be done by using multisim, okay, circuit design component. Then to control the aspects of it, okay, we'll make use of LabVIEW. Then in the future, you're comfortable with it, instead of multisim model, okay, you will use a controller, okay, real-time controller which is connected to the circuit, okay, which has this digital pulses generator, okay, analog data acquisition device, okay, it will have, this will be connected to that hardware. Okay, in real time it will send signals, control signals to the power electronic switches, and it will also get back the current output as well, so that you can build a reliable closed loop controller. Okay, that also will be programmed by using LabVIEW, and load can vary. Okay, it could be used to charge the battery. Okay, it could be used to power the AC, air conditioner, refrigerator, or motor, or possibly an electrical vehicle as well. Okay, out of which we are going to see several examples as how Multisim and LabVIEW work in tandem. Okay, to achieve whatever you want to achieve. Okay. So in order to give an example, okay, I hope everyone knows. I mean, I'm sure everyone knows about what is boost converter. Okay, so it's a circuit which is going to convert the low voltage, means a low voltage high current to possibly high current high voltage power supply. Okay, it boosts the voltage. Okay, it's working and all. I'm sure everyone knows that when the MOSFET is on, okay, the inductor charges as much as possible. Okay, the amount of time taken for it to charge and discharge, okay, will contribute to the duty cycle. And when the MOSFET is switched off, okay, this will discharge and it will have output voltage equal to the input voltage plus the charge, the power stored inside the magnetic coil. Okay, it again cuts back into it and it gets added to it. So V in plus VL is going to be equal to V out. Okay, so but in order to understand this design, okay, there'll be a lot of calculations involved. Okay, we're not going to go in depth into full calculations and all. Okay, because that is very rudimentary. We are going to see how LabVIEW is going to help. I mean, we are going to see how NI tools are going to help you, design and validation. Okay, so of course, when we design a boost converter, okay, we'll consider several aspects. Okay, what are the specifications, those things. Okay, so first comes the input voltage. How much input voltage can your whatever power supply use guarantee? Okay, it could be from a solar panel, or it could be from a battery pack, or it could be from grid directly. And what is the output voltage you want? Okay, probably you have a 12-volt battery, okay, and you want to control a 48-volt motor, right? So those things should be considered very carefully. And maximum current drawn by this motor. Okay, so that should also be noted. Then voltage ripple. Okay, so let's say you have output voltage of 48 volts, but then again you have several this MOSFET in order for it to switch on and switch off, so that the inductor will act like a transformer. Okay, we will be switching off and switching on at very high frequencies, right? So in order to filter out those ripples, okay, we need to use an appropriate capacitor. So you cannot filter it out fully. Okay, in that case we need to have infinite capacitance, okay, which is not possible. So always there'll be a threshold. Okay, requirements will be there. Let's say I can withstand 0.1 volts or 0.2 volts or 0.01 volts. So let's say you're fixed with some value. Okay, you can decide what will be the ripple factor. Okay, then frequency of switch. All these things are very rudimentary in finding out our design values, parameters. And once you are familiar with this, okay, you could fix on to circuit components data like inductor and current rating, capacitance and voltage rating, and diode, okay, which we use, okay, that also has a threshold capacity, okay, it's voltage and current rating, and MOSFETs voltage and current rating. Okay, you can fix this. So either you can use lot of calculators which are available in the internet, or you can refer the books which are available, okay, for the calculation, okay, to fine tune it. But always, calculations are not going to be very constant. Probably you need to fine tune it. Let's say when calculating you found one value, and when you're trying it out, okay, that may not be the same value what you expect. You need to tweak certain components in it. Okay, so experimentation will fine tune your product. So in order to simplify this thing, okay, we will use a calculator called as in Adafruit website, okay, which is used for boost converter calculation, very basic component calculation which will give, okay, based on frequency value, minimum and maximum value, maximum minimum output value, the current output, ripple, okay, all these things if we give and click the calculate, for us it's going to calculate all these things. Okay, the reason why we have minimum and maximum voltages, let's say if you're using a battery, okay, battery's voltage is not always going to be 12 volts. Okay, there is a possibility that when it discharges, its voltage will drop, okay, at least 2 volts. Okay, or let's say if you use a solar panel, okay, this boost converter, let's say it's used to do an MPPT. Okay, for that we will have a solar panel. Okay, solar panels voltage is again going to vary very largely. So in that case, we need to use this minimum output voltage and output voltage, minimum input voltage. And let's say output voltage also, if you want it variable. Okay, so you could give the minimum or maximum value. Okay, so let's say you're going to use it to control a motor. Okay, let's say by changing the motor voltage, okay, you're going to vary its speed or torque. Okay, in that case, you can give the voltage range of the motor here and output maximum peak current. Okay, which you can expect if you give here, and the ripple withstandable. Okay, by the component. So it's desirable values. Okay, if you give and of course frequency. Okay, the frequency is very important because we are not sure what type of control we use for designing the. I mean, we have to create the PWM. Okay, it could be a microcontroller. Okay, and microcontroller has what clock cycles we don't know, or maybe you'll use an FPGA which can generate more than megahertz value. And how much frequency your MOSFET can withstand. Okay, because your components cannot work in all frequency ranges. Okay, and depending on the frequency only, our L and C values also will be affected. Typically, it will be inversely proportional. When you increase the frequency more, okay, the values of L and C is going to be small. And if the values are small, okay, the component size also is going to be small. Okay, meaning your converter is going to be significantly smaller. So we are going to take an example of a boost converter of which is going to convert the voltage from 12 volt battery to power something like, let's say, values of 20 and 28 volts. It's going to draw maximum 1.5 ampere. Okay, we can assume that this is a 50 watt boost converter, okay, which you're going to design. So I'm going to give an adequate frequency of 30 kilohertz. Okay, I could go more as well. Okay, but as of now, no, I'm not going to go. So when I calculate it, I get values like inductor size values as 38.88 minimum value. This is minimum, which means I can go significantly larger as well. Okay, I can give peak inductor current. Okay, so inductor current is going to reduce the thickness of the inductor. Okay, I cannot keep any inductor thickness. Okay, because it's going to pass more current inside it. And capacitor value. We are going to use Schottky diode because Schottky diode is ultra high frequency capacitors to switch on and switch off. So it is going to have values like voltage and current. So based on that, these values of voltage and current values and other calculated values, okay, we are able to fix a boost converter of something like this, which we are going to design right now in Multiset. Okay, so 38.88 voltage, I'm just going to give 40 microhenry, and 500 microfarad. Okay, I'm going to give the next nearest It should not be max minimum. The next maximum value will be given. Okay, next maximum standard value. Okay, that is 680 microfarad. And EMB RB1045G is a Schottky diode. Okay, it's a 45 volt 10 ampere. Okay, as per our calculation, we need 28 volt 6 ampere. So I'll just go for next one. And MOSFET, okay, I'm going to use IRF Infineon's IRF 3205. Okay, it's capable of withstanding 55 volts and 110 ampere. Right. So these are the components which have been selected. Now, in order to design the schematic and evaluate its working, okay, I'm going to make use of multisim. Okay, so let's see how multisim is going to look like. Okay, basically multisim, this is multisim. Okay, we're just going to go for the, the implementation part. Okay, this is the circuit which needs to be simulated. Okay, so we have, the circuit schematic here. So this is multisim. Okay, the circuit design platform where we can pick and place different components, interconnect them as per our requirement. Okay, circuit design, and also it has SPICE model for every component, meaning you can simulate it with respect to time. Okay, but we have to know the basic rudimentary, operations. That is first placing the components. Okay, multisim is very rich in component placement. Okay, meaning it's going to have most of the components that are required for us. Okay, if you want more components, probably different package of multisim will be available. We are not going to go into deep into that. Okay, so in order to place components, we can see that right clicking on it and place components is going to do the deal. And if you see, this multisim has like 53,000 components, 54,000 actually to be frank. And if you want to filter out depending on the type of component which you use, okay, let's say 3 components are going to be there. Types of components are going to be there if you take any circuit. Okay, it's going to have a power supply. Okay, it's going to be having the active or a passive components, and at the last you'll be having measuring components. The measuring components is used to extract information from the circuit, right? So first is going to be the sources. Okay, and in sources we have power sources, and power sources we have DC power, which we pick and place here. Right. So by default, it is going to have 12 volts. If you want to change it, you can change it. Okay, but let's place all the components first. So next is going to be this 40 microhenry inductor. Okay, which also we are going to find here by going to by going to group. I'm going to try to filter it out. Okay, I'm going to find the basic component. And basic component, I have different types of basic components, out of which I'm going to find the inductor. An inductor can have any value. Okay, different types of standard values will be given here. But let's say I don't find my value. I just type it as 40U. It's going to give me the recommendation. And I can also select the type of component type. Okay, this does not have any significance in simulation. Okay, it is just to have it as a reference. Okay, so 40 microhenry. I can pick and place. Let's say we don't know what type of component only it is. Okay, I can always go to all groups. And if I don't know the component name, I can simply type it here. Okay, let's say I don't know where to find this Schottky diode. Okay, Schottky diode normally comes under diodes. Okay, even if you don't know, you can always go to all groups and type the code. Okay, in this case, the code is MBRB1045G. There are different types of Schottky words. Okay, this one is 10 ampere 45 volt Schottky rectifier. And multisim also, obviously, since it's dealing with power electronics, we have transistors available. We have to select a IRF V205, which is nothing but power MOSFET with 110 ampere pulsed current, withstanding capability, and 50 volts constant voltage. Okay, you can view the model here. Okay, basically every circuit, in order for it to be simulated in the computer, okay, it's going to have something called SPICE model. Okay, equation. Okay, only that defines the characteristics for circuit simulation. So we're just going to select this IRF 305, and I'm going to place it here. Next one is going to be capacitor. Capacitor, you cannot just type here as 10 microfarad or nothing. Okay, it's not going to work. Okay, if you go to all groups and type 10 microfarad, it won't know for which you are trying to say. So for generic components like a resistor, capacitor, inductor, you have to go to the basic components and you have to find the capacitor or whatever it is, okay, which will be available in basic. And here you have to type the value. Here is going to be 680 micro. Right? So at last you're going to have load. Okay, right now to test the component, in order to test the circuit, okay, we're just going to have a resistive load. Okay, I'm going to find resistor here. I'm just going to take a arbitrary 20 volt resistor and have it here. At last, the circuit components required is completed. Okay, but anytime we try to do a simulation, since it's a calculation which is taking place at the back, any calculation requires something called reference. Okay, so we need to go to sources at last. And in sources, power sources, we need to have a ground. Okay, it doesn't matter what type of ground you're going to use. Okay, but it's best if you use a normal ground. And this normal ground is going to act as a reference to your circuit. So now we can interact with these components just by clicking on the between the two, terminals. Right? Now, how do you generate the sine wave? I mean, the duty cycle. Okay, duty cycle generator is not really hard. Okay, we have a separate component for it, okay, which can be used. Okay, so you can find that component and I believe in power. Okay, in power, we have something called power controllers. Okay, these power controllers have, power converters required for different types of power electronic switches. Okay, it could be for AC to DC converter as well as DC to AC converter as well. Okay, let's say you're trying to make an AC to DC rectifiers. Okay, so you have the phase angle controller as well, SCR. Okay, triac conversion. So those things are also here. And if you want to do an inverter for three phase, okay, you have three phase generator as well. Okay, SPWM generator is also available. So right now I'm just going to go for PWM. And I'm going to place it here. Right. So yeah, I hope that was clear as of now. So if you have any queries, please do let me know. As of now, if you have any questions, you can ask. Next, we'll see how we can simulate by using the multisim itself. Then we'll see how we can interface with the LabVIEW.
So there was a question in chat box.
Okay, I can't see the
How
chat
do
box.
you how I will read out. How do you calculate the battery capacity required for an EV? What parameters should we consider?
Okay, that part we'll address at the last, because right now our scope is different. But we'll come to that at the last, surely, for sure. Okay. So in that case, if we don't have doubts as with this, okay, we'll continue with this. So right now, your MOSFET needs to be switched on based on it's a voltage control device, so it needs to be given a proper voltage. Okay, and also we are dealing with boost converter here, and we have calculated what frequency of PWM should be given. Okay, all those things which we are given here. Right, so as per our calculation already, okay, we have gone with you can see, as you can see, okay, all these components have been designed keeping in mind, okay, 30,000 hertz frequency, kilohertz frequency. So here also we'll give the 30,000 kilohertz frequency. Okay, so and in order to give the duty cycle, okay, in order to fix the duty cycle, okay, we need to have a reference signal generator, that is for in order to give 0 to 100%. Okay, we need to give a value here. Okay, that will consider as 0 to 100%. Meaning, if I give 0 volts, this should be 0. It should generate 0% duty cycle. If I give 1 volt, it should give you the 100% duty cycle. Okay, so anything in between is given. Correspondingly, it will give the duty cycle. Okay, let's say if I give 0.68 volts, okay, that should be taken as 68% duty cycle. So scaling between 0 to duty cycle, voltage to duty cycle. And output amplitude of this PWM is basically going to be the turn on voltage for MOSFET. Okay, so most probably MOSFET will have a characteristics. okay, input characteristics and transfer characteristics. Okay, basically most of the power MOSFETs will switch on above 10 volts. Okay, it's going to have plus or minus 10 volts, switch on frequency and switch on voltage. So I'll just give slightly more than that. So this is going to generate the amperage of PWM generator is going to be 15 volts peak. Okay. Now before going to LabVIEW for full scale validation, let's say I want to test first in the multisim itself whether it's working as expected. Okay, there are ways where I can generate these signals, okay, controls in the multisim itself, at least basically, okay, to observe all these things. But later point, let's say I want to integrate it, then only I can go for LabVIEW. So here, as we spoke, okay, giving 0 to 1 volts here will vary the duty cycle from 0 to 100%. So I just need to have a variable voltage supply, change the values, then I'll be able to observe. Okay, to do that, I can right click, go to place component, I'll go to all sources, signal voltage sources, and it's going to be like DC interactive voltage source. Okay, signal voltage, so DC interactive voltage source is going to be there. I'm going to click OK. Okay, if I double click on the zero, interactive voltage source, I can set what is the maximum value settable and minimum value settable. This is basically to transfer data from, convert the voltage to duty cycle. So this can accept only from 0 to 1 volts, and this also should be set only to 0 to 1 volts. Probably to give more step, I'll have increment value as 1%, so I can vary every 1%. Okay, so 1% to 100% of this 0 to 1 voltage I can vary. So every movement, okay, will be every 1%. Okay. Now I can run this program. I can run this simulation. Okay, it's going to run. But the problem now is we will not be able to see any observation. Okay, I'm not going to say that it's impossible for us to view the observation in multisim. Okay, LabVIEW is more suited for it. Okay, but it is surely possible to see the observation in multisim as well. Okay, for that only we have certain probes available in LabVIEW in multisim. Okay, there's something called voltage probe, which I can make use of to observe the voltage. Okay, I'm first observing the input. I can also observe the current through this place at the input. So if you see, it's showing as 12 volts, and obviously apparently 581 milliamps is being consumed. It's showing minus. That's because whenever we observe current, we'll have direction of reference direction will be there. Okay, so current is actually moving through this direction. Okay, but the reference direction is this one. Okay, it's away from towards the value, so that's why it's minus. You can change the direction by right clicking and reverse flow direction. And now it's as same as the actual direction of flow of current. Similarly, we can keep at the output as well. We can either place voltage probe and current probe separately. We do also have a voltage and current probe together. It's going to show both voltage and current. right? So if you see input voltage 12 volts are given, but the output we only receive 11.6. Okay, that's because one reason is because we haven't given any duty cycle at all. 0 volts corresponds to 0 duty cycle. Okay, but also people will say, sir, if you give no duty cycle also, V naught is equal to Vs divided by 1 minus D. Okay, 1 minus 0 is equal to 1, so it should be equal. Okay, that's theoretical, but let's say we have a lot of components here, okay, which means it's going to attribute to a lot of drops. Okay, probably there'll be drop to, across this resistor, diode, okay, across this inductor, so on and so forth. Okay. So how can I increase them? By increasing duty cycle, you will see that the output voltage also increases. By keeping 0.5, theoretically it should be half of what I gave. And here also if you see, it's almost equal to half. Okay, 12 volts we give, 23.8, okay, equal to 24. Yes, coming. Right? So this is okay. Okay, to check whether the circuit is working immediately. But let's say tomorrow I should be able to control this duty cycle. I have to be using not multisim, because multisim cannot be interfaced with any embedded system. It cannot be interfaced with any hardware, okay, which is capable of generating pulse generator, whatever it is. Okay, it is just for simulation purpose. But tomorrow I need to make this simulation converted into real world entity. So in that case, multisim can offer the solution of creating circuit models like this. Okay, it could be a simple model like this or complex model like what you want to do next. So that's where LabVIEW will come into picture, right? So in that case, what should happen? Okay, which means LabVIEW is going to be responsible for duty cycle value giving. Okay, not like this. But how do I communicate between other software of LabVIEW and here? But before that, we'll see what LabVIEW is. Okay, that we'll see later when we go there. Okay, you can understand right now LabVIEW is a programming tool just used to control and create, program which is used to control, automate certain tasks. Okay, meaning I should be able to give the value of duty cycle from LabVIEW to multisim, and also be able to observe the values of voltage and current, and I should be able to transfer the values of such into LabVIEW as well. So in order to integrate lab and multisim together, okay, we have something called connectors, okay, in place connectors, LabVIEW co-simulation terminals. The process of connecting both LabVIEW and multisim together for creating the controller for a circuit is called LabVIEW co-simulation, LabVIEW multisim co-simulation. Okay, it is done by something called LabVIEW multisim co-simulation toolkit. Okay, this toolkit is very important for testing, design, and validation of power converters. Okay, LabVIEW co-simulation is there. Voltage input terminal. Okay, there are two types of communication can happen. One is from multisim to LabVIEW, you can send data, or from LabVIEW to multisim, you can receive data. So you have to use appropriate terminals. So if you want to receive from LabVIEW to multisim, let's say if I want to simulate if I want to get the duty cycle value, okay, that command is got from LabVIEW to multisim. So we'll use voltage input terminal. We can double click on this terminal and change the name of the terminal as well. Okay, let's say this is PWM. Okay, we can set it as PWM. Let's say I want to observe the input voltage and output voltage. So then I'll place something called voltage output terminal. You can rotate the components by pressing Ctrl and R together. And I can observe the input voltage. I'll double click on it and I'll make it as V in. I'll place another component. Now current is a tricky, object, because if you see, we don't have we have a current input terminal, of course. Okay, but right now we don't have a current output terminal. So typically this can be handled by using something called current clamp. The current clamp will basically convert the current to a current equivalent of voltage. Okay, current clamp multimeter is available, no? So the same thing. So this current clamp is going to have ratio of voltage to current out properties is going to be there. So I just want both the values to be same proportion. So right now if you see, by default it's going to be for 1 millivolt, it's going to generate 1 volt per 1 milliampere change. I'm going to change to 1 millivolt per 1 ampere, that is 1 volt to 1 ampere basically if you cut M and M. So I'll have one more output as well. This is for input current and this is for output current. Now voltage has been current to equivalent current. So I'll again use the voltage output terminal to transfer this data. Okay, this is V out, sorry, I out. I mean V I in. Okay, I'll save this as boost. And be done with it. Okay, now we can close this off and we can see what exactly this LabVIEW is going to do. Now that our circuit has been designed, okay, next is to create a converter for this circuit. Okay, so for that only we'll go for LabVIEW. Okay, how LabVIEW is going to help you? So LabVIEW is basically a circuit. I mean, it's a graphical programming platform, okay, where you can use zero code. Okay, basically LabVIEW is you can say it's a tool which is mostly important for Industrial 4.0, where Industrial 4.0 actually acts as the place. It introduces the concept called zero code, no code, no programming concepts for automation. So I mean, one of the aspects they introduced, right? So lab is a very important tool for that. And here, zero coding is required. Okay, one thing is you have to drag and drop different aspects of the code together, functionalities together, and connect them together to work with each other, right? So here, if you see, this is the code. Okay, in order to interface LabVIEW and Multisim together. Okay, basically we have this push converter model brought inside. We send the command of PWM to it, and we receive responses like voltage, current, the things. We can plot as good. So since it comes under simulation, LabVIEW has different types of objects. Okay, we'll have two windows basically. One is called as front panel, and the other one is called as block diagram. Front panel is a place where you'll have the GUI. Okay, you can create inputs and outputs. Okay, everything will be graphical. And block diagram is a place where you will introduce the logic behind the code. Okay, and LabVIEW also has several toolkits. Okay, which is used in different domains. Okay, if you want to do signal processing, you have signal processing toolkit. You have, if you want to create control systems, software-based control system, you have control system toolkit. Okay, if you want to do machine learning, you have machine learning. If you want to do deep learning, you have separate deep learning toolkit. Okay, if you want to create SCADA, okay, you have supervisory and data logging toolkit, electrical power, industrial communications, RF, so on and so forth, etc., etc., etc. So now coming back to our design, all we have to do is we are going to do simulation now. So for that reason, okay, we have to go for control and simulation, and we have something called simulation, and we have a control and simulation loop. So this is how we can simulate. We can bring the multisim model inside the lab. So multisim model is basically, in front end we just see as pictures interconnected together, but at the back end it's basically a SPICE model. Okay, SPICE model is basically, you can say it's a Laplace transform. Okay, which makes it easy for us to simulate, ordinary differential equations. Okay, not Laplace transform, ordinary differential equations, which is running at the back. Okay, and in order to give us the output, in order to create the responses, this Laplace transforms will be solved, and the responses will be got for us, right? So that's what this control and simulation loop does. Okay, if you configure it, okay, you'll have an ODE solver. Okay, we can give what is the initial and final time. Okay, basically it's going to do the integration, and we can control other aspects as well. Right now, I'm just going to make this simulation run for infinite number of times. Okay, meaning the controller should be with me to stop it. The next is to bring the multisim model inside, which I can bring from here. Control simulation, external models. We have multisim here. Okay, external models basically it's available outside. You can build your own model if you know, let's say, transfer function of a boost converter, transfer function of buck converter. Okay, if you bring it here, yeah, sure, you can build your own model internally. But let's say you're going to extract external model from external stuff. Okay, you have other options as well, like let's say multisim. Okay, or let's say you have a MATLAB model. Okay, most of the MATLAB models can be converted into DLL. Okay, so for that you have external model as well, and you have a model interface toolkit which can help you get the Simulink model as well. Okay, so there are ample opportunities. So I'm just going to take multisim model. And I place it. After I place my multisim design, it's going to ask me for the location where the multisim is stored. I'll just browse. I'll go to desktop. I'll select boost converter. I'll give OK. Here, basically, I need to give the PWM input, and I will be able to observe the output required for me. Okay, now LabVIEW is very easy. Using LabVIEW, it's very easy for us to give the inputs. Okay, not like multisim where we have to give a power supply to give the power supply value. Okay, in LabVIEW, in order to give inputs, we have to just right click on the front panel, and you'll have different types of data types like any programming tool. Okay, you'll have numeric because PWM is a value of number. It will have a numeric, and there are many ways to give the input of PWM, out of which I'll use a knob. Okay, basically by changing the knob, I'll be able to change the PWM. And PWM will vary from 0 to 1. So minimum value is already 0. Maximum value not to change, I'll just make it as 1. I'll double click on the maximum value and I'll edit it as 1. So this PWM knob is connected to the PWM input of the boost net. To view the output, there are many ways to do it. Okay, but the most significant way to do it is there is a plotter available. Okay, I'll right click on the LabVIEW window. I go to control simulation. Graph utilities is available in the simulation, which can be help us to plot the values of voltage, output, input voltage, input current, and everything. Now I want to send multiple values at once. So I'll just convert everything to array. Okay, first I'll send the voltage input. I'll send the current input. Next voltage output, current output. Okay, other important reason why people go for LabVIEW is you can configure the appearance of your program into many ways. You can tweak your program. You can model your GUI as per your wish. Okay, in this case we can change it to however you like. Okay, so I'll just run this program for now. So I just pressed it. I mean, like multisim simulation, your LabVIEW program can also be run by clicking this run button. When I click this run button, okay, the simulation will take place. LabVIEW will give the data to it, and Multisim will respond to it. Right now we are getting data, but the scale, if you see, it's from 0 to 10. Okay, but right now it's working very slow. It's working every millisecond or so. So in order to see this data, okay, we have to auto scale, and this is what the data which we get. To stop the program, we have this abort button. Apart from this, I will also display the digital display of this so that I can see the mathematical value as well. Okay, here I can see graphically, I can see what value I'm getting, but approximate value not to look. I always have to use a value box like this. This will show me the numeric value. Apart from that, I can also control the rate at which this simulation will work. Okay, that is this discrete step time. So I can make it work like each step I can make it work every 1 millisecond, microsecond or so. At least the time base will be calculated as such. I'll run again. So this is V in, this is I in, this is V out, this is I out. Initially you can see this V out is going, it's overshooting because any time at the start of power supply when you give, okay, it's always going to have a transient, okay, due to the inrush current and stuff. So when it settles down, you will see that its value, we are not even given the PWM value. Okay, but after it settles down, okay, if you change the PWM, you will be able to see, the value will change. Okay, it has settled down. Okay, right now your input voltage is 12 volts, output voltage is 11.62 volts. So let's say I vary the value. Okay, you can see the V out is changed. See? So you can still change the PWM voltage. So still by changing the PWM, okay, and you can get more value out of it. So I get 0.75, okay, which means I get like 4 times the input voltage. Okay, so here we can see the input voltage, that is, the ripple current, the current ripple due to switch on and switch off. Right. So this is how you can test and validate your controller. This is open loop control, meaning I just give the PWM and output is going to be the duty cycle. I mean, output is going to be the output voltage. Right. Similarly, you can basically create closed loop control. Okay, in case of closed loop control, you have to convert. Either you can have the set point as voltage, or in case of electrical vehicle, you can set the set point as speed. Okay, out for which we'll see the examples as well. Okay, so previously for open loop, our input was just PWM and output was just V in, I in, V out, I out. Okay, for closed loop control, basically you'll get the set point voltage. Okay, and your output will automatically go and set at that voltage. Instead of giving the duty cycle, okay, we will give the set point, and when that duty cycle for that set point will be automatically calculated, and that voltage will be set. Okay, basically we'll use a PID controller for this in order for us to settle down quickly. Right, so we'll take the PID loop, PID's component, which is available at control and simulation. We have PID functions available. Okay, so basically we'll take the output, that is the response V out we'll give it as the current variable. Okay, we'll give the set point where it has to go. Then we'll get the error. Okay, output error we'll get. This output error will convert it into an equivalent value of the duty cycle, and we'll be able to create the closed loop as well. Now, instead of the duty cycle, we can probably create a relationship between speed and duty cycle as well. But let's say right now we are seeing for set point of voltage. Okay, here we are giving 12 volts as set point. So V in is 12 volts, output also is 12 volts. Okay, correspondingly PWM is also iterated. Let's say if I want 24 volts, I'll type 24 volts here, and this PWM will make sure that it will go and settle at 24 volts. Of course, overshoot and all will be there. If you can fine tune your PID, okay, it's going to go and settle there as well. 36 volts, yes, sure. Okay, in the program we have fixed the output voltage to 33.3 in order to have a safety mechanism. Okay, but maximum value will be going to be 30. Okay, if you see it set 30, it's going to settle at 30. Right? So such things can be done by using the LabVIEW environment. Okay, and it's not really there is a reason why we fixed boost converter. Number one, it's not going to take a lot of time. Okay, number two, boost converter, buck converter, and DC to DC converter is also equally responsible in EV, right? But of course, we can design a single phase inverter as well, or three phase inverter for that matter. Okay, so let's say, and for example, if you see, we have a one second, yeah, open multisim design. Okay, for example, we have a square wave inverter. Okay, for which we have a circuit like this, a single phase bridge rectifier and bridge inverter. Okay, we have components placed in this fashion, and we are also getting the output across here. So naturally, for inverter, we have to set the sequence of switching on and switching off. Okay, so that cannot be done in multisim. Okay, at least for the boost converter, we had a place to set the PWM. Okay, but in order to do this, totally we have to use LabVIEW only, and we have in LabVIEW we have options to set design a logic, okay, of switch on and switch off. Okay, basically we'll have a reference volt, reference switch, reference signal, square wave signal generated, and based on the reference sine wave signal, okay, we'll be able to commutate which pair of switch should be switched on. Okay, when the sine wave, when the square wave signal is positive, okay, one pair of switch will be switched on. When it is off, the other pair of switch will be switched on. Okay, something like that we can set. Okay, so S1, S2, S3, S4, and we can make the measurement and we can bring the data to simulation. Okay, so for example, square wave, if you see, okay, we will get data like this. And at the same circuit, instead of square wave, let's say I want to design a modified square wave. Okay, so in case of single phase inverter, we can, inverter, we can, change the control strategies. Okay, control strategies, basically it's not going to change the circuit much. Okay, we can either convert it using square wave. Okay, modified sine wave is basically, which comes like halfway equivalent to a sine wave. Okay, so modified sine square wave. Okay, it will have multiple steps like this. Okay, for that we just need to tweak the logic. Okay, and also we have a SPWM generator as well. Okay, we can vary the PWM's duty cycle, okay, sinusoidally, and we can commutate the positive and negative as well, right? So for that we have another logic, modified sine wave. Okay, basically modified sine wave is addition of two sine waves, which is 90° in out of phase. If you add two sinusoidal waveform of same frequency, which is 90° out of phase, okay, you are going to get the modified square wave. So you're going to get stepped sine wave like this. Okay. So this logic, the commutation logic will be same. Okay, only thing is the reference signal generation will vary. And let's say you want to generate a SPWM based. Okay, for SPWM based, basically you need to generate a sine wave reference. Okay, so in the control and simulation, okay, in the simulation we have signal generator available, from where we generate this square wave signal also. Okay, so that is also available. After getting the sine wave signal, okay, for SPWM, this sine wave SPWM, we all know how to generate PWM basically, okay, from scratch. That is, we can basically compare the duty cycle value, okay, to a a triangle. I mean, not triangle, it's a sawtooth waveform generator. Okay, by comparing it, okay, you will be able to get the PWM value. Okay, so same thing we are doing. We are comparing the this reference signal, this sine wave reference to the sawtooth, okay, so that we'll get duty cycle proportional, PWM proportional to sine wave. And also we need to control the direction as well. Okay, this sine wave will have both positive and negative. Okay, so in order to commutate the inverter positive SPWM as negative portion of it, okay, again we need to control the direction by using this leg MOSFETs. Okay, further this part will always be here, right? So once we run this, and of course this signal frequency will be different than this frequency. Okay, this is switching frequency of the MOSFET. Okay, and this will be the reference frequency which we need to set. So basically this will be like a PWM modulation which will happen. Right now we are setting 4000. Okay, perhaps in the future we can generate a filter which will filter out the components of the sine wave. I mean, which will switch off the SPWM to a pure sine wave. Can we run this? Okay, probably it got stuck. Let's wait for a moment. Okay, I hope this started running. Yeah, it's running. You can see here. Okay, as you can see, the reference voltage is the back behind. Okay, and this is the SPWM, proportional SPWM. Okay, so wherever the maximum voltage is there for the sine, you can see it will be very close to each other. Okay, that is the duty, so that your pulse width will be very high. Okay, large. Okay, maximum. And when it is minimum, okay, the pulse duty cycle will be very less, small. Okay, duration. The on time will be smaller than the off time. And where it is higher, okay, you can see the on time will be higher than the off time. It will be proportional to the amplitude. And this will happen at the both negative as well as positive. Okay, further commutation will take care of it. And this is not only necessary for single phase. Okay, probably you can do it for a 3-phase as well. Okay, and of course that SPWM can be filtered out to it can be filtered to a pure sine wave as well. Okay, for that, let's see an example here. Okay, of course, it cannot be a very small circuit like this. Probably a lot of optimization would have been done. Okay, let's see, try to see one example here. Okay, so this is one of the examples. Okay, in order to keep the, since we have filters in place, okay, we need to measure and we need to have, frequency as constant. Okay, for that we'll have a PID also to control the frequency, right? So PLL frequency will be employed. Okay, this is for a three-phase inverter. I mean, this is actually a three-phase inverter circuit. Okay, but here we are going to use all the three phases. Okay, so let's see how it works. And obviously we have, not only the simulated value. Okay, we also have measured value also in line. Okay, meaning this circuit has been implemented. Okay, and that data also has been grabbed, so you can compare how it changes. So DC link measured value and DC link co-simulated values. So both of them will be almost similar. And this is voltage grid, voltage co-simulation, voltage measured, and we have all three phases. Okay, this is measured, this is co-simulation. Okay, it's almost same, right? And this is for the other phase, and this is for the next phase. See, so instead of let me stop this. And next objective is not only to control the a normal inverter. Okay, probably we should be able to control the motor as well. Okay, using the inverter system. Okay. One second. Next is going to be to check how we can control the motor, right? So for that also, if you see here, we have a three-phase back-to-back inverter with motor control. Okay, or we have a brushed DC motor control. So for that we have a circuit here. Okay, which is hosted by using the multisim. So using the H-bridge controller, okay, we are able to control the motor. Okay, and power supply is also here. And here we are trying to measure the speed of the motor by using the incremental encoder. Okay, this is the brushed DC machine permanent magnet. Okay, it has its own parameters which can be filled here. And to give the logic behind it, okay, we have a separate LabVIEW program, okay, using which we can generate the signal required to control the more switching logic. Okay, switching logic before we developed, okay, but there are multiple libraries inside LabVIEW, okay, which can help you generate that switch on switch off logic. You can also implement something called dead time. Okay, basically dead time is to prevent the same MOSFETs in the same line from shorting together. Okay, so if you develop on your own, okay, you have to take care of all these things, but most of the bridges, most of the logics inside the LabVIEW, that is libraries in LabVIEW, will make sure it will have all those logics in place. Okay, not to control the speed. Okay, we'll have a PID controller here. Okay, you can have set point. You can tune the KP, KD. All these things you can do. So this is the motor set point, and this is the current motor speed. Okay, it is settling down. Okay, that will happen by the combination of motor frequency and stuff. Okay, if I change the set point to 100, let's say. So this combination of the circuit will make sure that this motor speed will go and settle out there. So on and so forth. So after this is basically simulation, everything whatever we saw is simulation. In future, let's say you want to implement it in real world. Okay, so LabVIEW NI portfolio offers several power electronic based hardwares available. Okay, to generate switching frequencies and other things we have. Okay, so you can implement, you can program an FPGA, okay, NI based FPGA cards, okay, to generate these pulse width waveforms, okay, and directly connect those FPGA hardwares to whatever circuits you are trying to develop. Okay, build that circuit component in the multisim. Okay, possibly you can transfer it to Altiboard to generate the PCB, and use LabVIEW to control the embedded hardware is going to control the circuits. Okay, so many power applications have been developed by using the NI portfolio like this. Okay, it could be varying from rectifier, inverter, okay, DC to DC converter, DC to AC converter, solar panel, battery stack models, motor generator load, etc., etc. So LabVIEW, Rio platform, and something called GPAC. Basically, this is used for switching, converting the switching level of the inverters. So this has been done by us. Okay, we made use of LabVIEW and inverter. Okay, we made use of SPWM based inverter. Okay, where we can generate 60 volts, 60 hertz frequency. Okay, and the same logic whatever we developed. Okay, we develop in the hardware, and this is what was updated. Okay, there are plenty of physicists available. Okay, out of which for our scope, okay, we can use it to build, test, and validate the model of electrical vehicle motors, and the traction ECUs, etc., etc. Now, some people might ask which companies have actually using V, because when we heard about electrical vehicle, people are saying MATLAB, people are saying other tools, but I haven't heard LabVIEW at all. In that case, one of the companies, very famous companies called as Primus Power. Okay, they are the creators of Energy Pod. Okay, which is used for zinc bromide batteries basically. Okay, so that basically those battery management and battery charging, okay, using them as inverters and other things are being done by using the NI portfolio, that is NI hardware and NI software. Okay, and the total testing and modeling of electrical vehicle. Okay, this was hybrid electrical vehicle. Okay, using the power electronic hardware and loop simulation by using NI portfolio. Okay, this company is called Subaru. It's a Korean automotive company. They produce a fully electrical vehicle and hybrid electrical vehicles. Okay, by using FPGA based simulation. Right now we used computer based simulation, but FPGA based simulation is also possible by LabVIEW. Okay, they were able to develop, test, and model their electrical motor control unit, that is the inverter and stuff. Okay, in 1/20th of time. Okay, so they had several test strategy. Okay, so by using several NI hardwares and NI portfolio based softwares, okay, they were able to test this by generating 6-phase PWM, okay, excitation, other types of communication protocol, okay, measuring the 3-phase current, speed, torque, those things they were able to develop. Okay, they were able to collect information, and the tests were done in 118 hours instead of when done manually, okay, which took 2,300 hours. Okay. So if you have any questions, I think we had some question back then. Okay, or similar questions if we have, I'll be able to address. So what parameters should be considered for electrical vehicle battery capacity? So battery capacity is going to be mostly dependent on how far your electrical vehicle is going to go, number one, and how much power your components inside your electrical vehicle is going to consume. Okay, electrical motor is going to draw the most power, okay, in order to propel the motor forward. Okay, and in order to control how much current the motor is consuming, okay, in order to not in order to check the battery discharging and battery charging curves, okay, proper battery management should be installed. Okay, so range is a very important parameter. Okay, so battery capacity will be decided on those factors. Yeah, there is a model called as in the battery model itself, in Multisim we have something called ideal battery. Okay, which will be acting like a chargeable battery. Okay, we have to charge it before we use it, and if you use it, okay, the battery slowly discharges, so it can be used to as an energy storage component. Or you can use LabVIEW. Okay, in the LabVIEW, if you know the equation for those battery model, okay, you can create your own model in the LabVIEW and you can simulate the energy storage component. So yeah, if you have any other questions, you can ask them by either typing in the link in the chat box, or you can unmute and ask. Or if we are done, I would like to show you my contact. I will even drop it in the chat box. If you're interested to contact me for any other reason, the best way is to mail or call.
Participants, is there any queries? Please ask. As there is no queries, sir, can we wind up the session?
Yes, and if no questions, then I would really like you thank you for attending this give me this opportunity to give my insights about one of the tools which is used in industry for in the automobile industry and in electrical vehicle industry, of course. Okay, that is LabVIEW and Multisim. Okay, apart from this, there is also a lot of other scopes for the LabVIEW and Multisim. Okay, if you're interested, you can contact me for any other queries you have. And thank you once again for KPRA College to give me this wonderful opportunity. Thank you once again.
Thank you, sir. So on behalf of the management, CE sir, principal ma'am, head of the department and our organizing team, I thank Mr. Rajkumar for sharing his valuable time and spending time in explaining with the simulation of LabVIEW and NI tools. So this exposure, good exposure for the participants, I hope. So thank you, sir. Thank you for your time, valuable time. Thank you once again. Thank you.